Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey, everybody. So today, I want to talk about the biggest and most important thing I did to reach the level that I did in powerlifting. And that thing was to not train heavy as often as I wanted to. And this is something that I've talked openly about, but I continued to get ragged on throughout my whole career. I don't know. I probably shouldn't say it like that. There were certain people that continued to rag on me throughout my career for how often I trained. But there was a lot of other people that understood it. So, but I just think I think it's an interesting topic, and it's a topic that I look back over my career and go, could I have communicated this better? Do I need to try and say it in a different way? How could I help people to understand what I was doing and why I was doing it, and how can that help them? Because I do not think that there is one way to get strong. I think there's one right way for the individual, and actually I think that one right way for the individual will probably still change over time. So let's start not at the very beginning. Once I got into powerlifting, which I did my first bench meet at the age of 27, the bench only meet. I can't remember. I think I was over 4. It was like 405 or 410 or something like that, which I did on almost no notice. Walked in raw. I'm not even sure I had wrist wraps. I think I did get a singlet. I think they told me I needed a singlet, so I think I found a singlet in time. But that was it. I walked in and did that. I went, hey, man, that was fun. This is awesome. I haven't competed in anything in like 6 years. That was great. Decided I wanted to kind of pursue it. And I had to move back and forth. So it wasn't until probably, I think, 1999 that I did my first 3-lift meet. I did buy some gear, but I ended up splitting the squat suit out. I still didn't have a bench shirt. So I ended up totaling like 1,700. Basically, well, it was raw. And that was when I really went, okay, I like this, and I'm not very good, but I think I can be good at this. And I decided I was going to pursue it seriously, which ended up meaning leaving a job to go to another job that allowed for my training. I pretty much went all in. Over my career, I sold motorcycles, I sold cars, I lived in shitty apartments. Like everything was about how can this help me still keep lifting? I stopped doing a lot of hobbies that I really enjoyed because I wanted to pursue powerlifting. But shortly, about, I don't remember exactly the timeline now, but I would say a year or so in, I had to be honest with myself and admit that I did not know enough. And the people that I was following locally did not know enough. And I needed to find better people to listen to. And that's when I went to found Elite FTS, found Dave Tate, did a bunch of research, went, okay, I like these principles. I like this guy. I'm gonna figure out how to get to one of his seminars, and I'm gonna shut the hell up and I'm gonna listen. And if I don't understand, I'm gonna ask questions till I do. And that's what I did. So by this point, I had a few guys that I was training with that were pretty serious. So we started a little team. and we all started training conjugate. Like after when I was done, once I went to this seminar, I trained alone, but I was implementing all these things and I was getting better. I think I had one or two guys. Then after a little bit of time, I had, I think four or five guys. And quickly going into that, I ran into a situation where I was getting beat up about every third or fourth week, and everybody in the team started getting beat up every fourth or fifth week. And we ran through the same thing and be like, oh man, we're shit this week. And everything just sucked and it was shitty. And we backed down a little bit and then we got back to it. And the same thing kept happening. We just kept going through this loop for, 3 or 4 months. And by this time, I had access to Dave Tate was probably, I would say, the closest thing I ever had to a mentor because at least I could call him with questions and he would shoot me straight. And I was starting to get around better and better lifters and have access to being able to call better and better lifters and get their thoughts. So during this time, we were doing the standard West Side conjugate, training 4 days a week with the dynamic and the max effort, and then trying to fit in some, sled dragging sessions or whatnot. And so at first I'd called Dave up and we talked about what was going on. And, he's in his magical way. He wouldn't just answer my question, but kind of started getting me thinking. And it was stuff that I was thinking. And, he's like, well, what do you think you should do? What do you think's going on? What's this? What's that? And I'm like, I feel like our bodies just quit after a certain period. Like you can't take it. So to me, it's too much and we're not recovering. And sorry, we're not recovering. And so it tells me this training is too much. Keep in mind, at that point, everybody in the team was clean. So he's like, what do you think you should do about it? And I go, I think I'm going to have to take one route. Like every third or fourth week, we're just going to have to go, listen, we're going to be shit by the fourth week. So the fourth week is going to be this, like a deload, what everybody calls a deload. We're going to go in and we're going to lift light all week. And I go, but that would suck, man. Once a week, I got to lift light. That would be horrible. Like I like to train. I love to train. I want to train hard all the time. And so I went, okay, let's, instead of doing this on like a 7-day, let's try doing that main template, but let's do it on an 8-day. And let's try to get, with that other day off, let's try to do a smaller session, such as a recovery session or a GPP session. Because I liked being in the gym 5-6 days at least a week. So we did that and things got a little bit better, but we were still kind of running into the same thing. And so we ran that one for a while, for months and months and months. And I was just like, man, everybody got stronger. Everybody got like a little bump and made this jump. And then it kind of just leveled out. So I remember, I think I called Dave up again and was talking to him. And by this time I was starting to meet even better guys that I was talking to and listening to. And, just talking to them and hearing stories and hearing how their training was and just asking questions here and there, you start picking things up. And so I was talking to Dave and I'm like, Dave, man, like, dude, could I really be, everybody says you do this and do that and like da 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 da. And like you hear all these stories about this training and these things. And Dave's like, listen, you're doing all this. You're training it. You have your team. A similar thing is happening to everyone on your team. Like, what do you think you should do about it? And I go, it seems to me like we're still overtraining. Me, I'm the worst. but everyone is showing some signs that they're not keeping up. And so then I went, all right, let's just go from 8 to 10. I think we went, and let's do that same template, and let's keep, make sure the intensity of those days is really high. And anyone that watched us train, or anyone that was around Flex Gym or American Iron, knows that we went all out. Let's keep that high and add these other days in. And then on these other days, because I remember having a conversation, like, I loved to train. I trained every day. I look back now on my whole career from when I was like 12 and I started doing this. Lifting was how I controlled my anger. Lifting is how I controlled my life. It's how I didn't kill people. I remember when I first started training, there was a point where I got into one of my just rages. And I was so pissed. And I go, that's it. And I went downstairs and I just started bench pressing. And I bench pressed till I pinned myself. And once I weaseled the weight off of me and got out and was just exhausted, I remember just laying on the floor going, I feel a lot better. Like, I feel pretty good. Like, I'm tired, but I feel good. And so that became part of my life and how I dealt with all these things I had in me. And it was the same thing. I could have a horrible day at work and ready to rip somebody's head off, but it was like, dude, I just got to get to the gym, man. Got to get to the gym. Got to get out of here. Got to get to the gym. And I would go kill myself every day in the gym. And that's what made me feel better. I never had to deal with any of these other problems that I had because I had the gym. And I remember having a conversation with Dave at some point. I don't remember if it was during this conversation or not, but like, Dave, you don't understand, man. Like, I got to train every day or I'm going to kill somebody. Like, I can't. That's how I deal with shit, man. The ironic part, I've told this story many times, is that Dave gets that. Dave understands that. But it didn't change the fact. It didn't matter how I feel. It didn't matter what I wanted to hear. The truth of the matter was what Dave said to me. Do you want to be the best in the world, or do you want to control your shit through training every day? Because you're not going to do both. And he was 100% flat out right. And that's still, like, I can still hear talking on the phone and him saying that. And I hated it, but I could not argue the fact that it was right. And when I first decided, Dave Tate, this is the guy I'm going to listen to. I like the way this guy says this. All of his principles sound solid. Like, I just got to figure out how to make this work for me. I promised myself then that you give that man a shot. You're not just going to listen to what he says and take what you want. You're going to open your goddamn mind and you're going to listen to every single thing he says and you're going to give it the respect it deserves. Not that everything's going to work, not that you're always going to agree with him, but you're going to give him that respect. So when he said that, I didn't want to hear it, but I made that promise. So as much as I didn't want to hear it, I listened to it. And maybe I didn't jump that day, but it was there. It was in my head. I was thinking about it. So that was about the time I think we moved it out to 10 days. And so it's still not this huge, great, amazing change or anything. This is basically very similar to the regular West Side Conjugate. I'm just spreading days out and giving myself more rest. So everybody on the team starts killing it. Everybody's getting stronger. Everybody's feeling better. Like, hey, this is awesome. Cool, man. So I think on 10 days, like there's varying splits we did of this. And so to at certain stages, you're training on different days each week, which is okay for me because, I mean, I was married for a while, but most of the time I was single and I didn't give a shit when we trained. But I had, some of my members had wives and kids and responsibilities outside the gym. So the whole spreading it out and having different days kind of sucked for them, but everybody stuck with it. Then the point came along, everybody's getting stronger. Like I'm putting up massive numbers by this time. Scott, who is lifetime drug free, is verging on some insane numbers as well. Unfortunately, he didn't really like to compete a lot. Uh, well, he liked to compete financially for financial reasons. He wasn't able to actually compete as much, but he was putting up good numbers. You know, Ethan was putting up good numbers. We've had varying other. That was the main three that were always with us. Then I had varying other people come in, but everybody was doing good. And I kind of got to where it's like, man, I'm hitting a wall again, and I'm struggling and fighting with stuff. And this is when I decided, we're going to try 14. And I mean, I thought about that for months. It was in my head for months that I need to go 14. I need to go, but I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go 2 weeks. Uh, so I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And the logic kept coming back. Chad, every time you do this, everybody gets stronger. Every time you've added more rest days, everyone got stronger. Like you can see that you're definitely doing too much. Like I was trying to stay with, oh, if this is best for the team, then I'll just do these deload weeks sporadically when I think I need them, or when my guys would go, Chad, you're done this week. That's it. We can tell you're screwed up. You're done. And finally I went, no. Like Scott's can't get that drug-free 1,000-pound squat, and he's right there. He should have it. I don't know why he's not. He's not. And I knew why he's not, because he's not fucking fully recovered. So I finally went, yes, that's it. Here it is. This is what we're doing. And Scott actually got pissed. And he's like, that's it. Fine. I'll train for myself. I'll be undertrained. That's stupid. We shouldn't do it. And I went, you know what? This has always been a little bit of a democracy, but I'm still a goddamn king. And this time I'm putting my foot down, and this is what we're doing. Period. You don't want to train with us? That's fine. Because everybody on my team, I always wanted everyone's input. If you were on my team, part of being on the team is coming up with ideas. It's helping with other people's weak points. It's understanding technique. Like you're literally going to be part of this team. That means you will coach, you will load plates, you will spot at meets, you will compete, you will do everything. And he ended up staying with us. And within, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 months, he did his next meet and he broke the 1,000-pound squat, 700-pound bench, and he pulled, I think he missed his 8 deadlift. Lifetime drug free. He was just destroying it. And right after that squat, he walked over to me and I went, huh? And he went, shut the fuck up. I go, so it worked, huh? He's like, just shut up. I don't want to hear it. But he knew having that extra rest time in there is what boosted his strength. Wow, that was, I would say, one of my proudest moments in powerlifting. Not with anything I lifted when he did that. So this whole thing we didn't just go to a 14-day split. This whole thing took years to happen. It was gradual. And every time we did it, the results were awesome. So we did it again and we did it again. And over time, we kept finding that it worked. And I found that a 14-day split works for a lot of people, to the point where if I'm working with a client, especially if they are been powerlifting for a long time and they're doing pretty good numbers, but they're stuck, I will jump to 14 right off the bat and go, hey, listen, let's go here. Let's see how you feel. Because we can always add more days in. We can always bring it back. But let's start here. I can't remember who said it. It might have been Louis. Somebody at one point said you get to the point as a coach sometimes where you just know and you don't even know how you know. And sometimes you just got to trust that. And I've had that feeling about people and went, you know what? I may not be able to put down exactly why I want to try this with this person, but something's telling me I need to do this. and it's never let me down. Um, so we're expanding it out. It took a long time. Now I want to tell people, I want to explain to people that there is no one right way. I'm not saying everyone should do 14. I'm not saying everyone should do 7. I'm saying if you're working with me, we need to find what works best for you. If you're working on your own, you need to find what works best for you. I've had so many amazing top lifters on this podcast, and I swear everyone at some point says something about doing what they needed to do for them and throwing all the other things out the window. I don't care what anyone else said. This is what I know I need to do, and I'm going to do it. On top of that, I want people to get as strong as quick as they can. With other caveats being, I want you to stay healthy, because that's going to be one of the things that's going to slow your gains down the most, is injuries. So if I can get someone to get good results and to get the balance of stimulus to recovery to growth, let's do that as quick as possible. If you can handle doing 4 heavy, intense sessions a week, let's do 4 heavy, intense sessions a week. No, let me change that. Not if you can handle it. A lot of people can handle it. I handled a lot of heavy training, but I didn't get the results I should have got or could have got. So it's not about what you can handle. It's about what pays you the biggest dividend. It's like investing. Do you want to invest a bunch of money and only get 2% when you could get 8%? I don't. I want 8. So I look at powerlifting the same way. I want to be on the biggest stage, the biggest platform. What is it going to take to do that? And that goes back to when Dave said, listen, you could do this, but if you want to be one of the best in the world, you can't do it. So make up your mind, which is fine. That's fine too. If you are the kind of person who's like, dude, man, I just like lifting like crazy. I like how it makes me feel. That's what I want to do. I'll work with you and give you the craziest goddamn sessions you've ever been through. I have no problem with that. But if you want to be the best in the world, it's not just about getting in the gym and beating yourself up. It's not about seeing how far you can push yourself every day and how much you can take. It's not about going, oh, I went and partied last night till 4 and I drank all this and I'm still in the gym today. No, you're an idiot. Unless that's what your goal is. If your goal is to see how much you can take and still train hard, good job. Keep going, man. But if your goal is to be the best in the world, you're not doing what it takes to be the best in the world. If you're not stretching, if you're not doing your mobility, if you're not eating right, if you're not sleeping right, you're not doing what it's going to take to be the best in the world. So now let's go back to me, so to speak. We'll start there anyway. When I first started training, I had a lot of problems that I didn't even know about because I grew up with this blue collar mentality, and you just shut up about shit and got your job done. You never spent a lot of time on anything, thinking about it, figuring out. You just did it. So at one point, I was so exhausted and my depression was so bad. Uh, well, it was asleep. I fell asleep at a stop sign once, and I went, "Oh my God!" Like I'm putting other people at danger. This has got to stop. Like I got to figure something out. And that's when we started studying my sleep. And when we started studying my sleep, I realized that I have had sleep problems since I was in 5th grade. Like I slept through every class I've ever had. It wasn't a choice. I could not physically stay awake in a class. Anytime you sat me down and stopped me, I would doze off. But like I said, blue collar, you get the job done. Okay, I'm exhausted. So what? I can't sleep at class. Okay, fine. Then I'll figure out a way to teach myself. So one of my favorite things was I would take my books home. I always carried all my books because I had to study. So I would go home, do the questions that had the answers in the back. And I would look at the question, look at the answer, and then I would reverse engineer it. And that's how I taught myself geometry. Um, but I came home and I had this focus. I didn't have to sit and listen to somebody. I could go at my pace and figure it out. And I was able to do that. And I was able to make myself train no matter how tired I was. But sitting in the classroom, I couldn't, it wasn't going to happen. And the same thing when I went to college. I slept in every college class I ever had. I've had multiple teachers come up and ask me about it. And like one of my teachers is one of my favorite teachers. And she goes, "Why do you fall asleep in my class?" And I go, "It's not. I love your class. Like this lady took us to do cadaver work when I was in high school, man. She was awesome." I go, "I can't. I don't, it's not a choice. Like I cannot stay awake. Like I tried. I've just given up at this point." And, but that was just, you didn't think about it. And I even once we started learning about it, my mom's like, "Yeah, I remember when you were a kid, I kept taking you to the doctors. And the doctor's like, 'Oh, he's just growing. Don't worry about it. He's just growing. No big deal. He's fine.'" And they didn't want to pay any attention either. So once we started doing the studies, we found out I had apnea because by then I was over like 330 pounds. Years later, I found out my apnea for me, anything over 320, I'm probably going to start having apnea. Anything over 330, I'm definitely having apnea. So we got on the CPAP, we fixed that. So I'm on a CPAP. I mean, I've had, I don't know, I think 6 full sleep studies. I've seen at least I've been to 3 or 4 different sleep clinics. I've tried damn near every sleep medication in the market. The only thing that worked was Seroquel, and it was super heavy doses. And that is actually a drug for schizophrenics. And it's not good for you at all. And when I was doing it, it would help me sleep, but it wasn't really a deep sleep and it wasn't a quality sleep. So it still sucked. And I would be screwed up half the next day, which I didn't really realize. My ex-wife kind of helped me see that drug was not good for me and it was not really helping anyway. Uh, so I eventually got myself off of that. Adderall, amazing, awesome drug. I feel great on Adderall, but all Adderall does is gives me energy during the day. It doesn't help anything with the narcolepsy. And again, it's pharmaceutical meth. It's still not good for you. So I don't take it. So eventually we did the blood tests, we did the sleep latency test, everything came back. You have narcolepsy. And basically there's different forms of narcolepsy. I don't have like where I'm just going to pass out and fall asleep right in front of somebody. But my sleep wake cycles, my body doesn't know how to regulate a sleep wake cycle. So back in I think it was the 90s, when we had the N1H1 virus, they found out that a bunch of people that got the N1H1 virus were showing up with narcolepsy after that. And they figured out that there's this hormone, I think it's called orexin, that is released into the spinal fluid, and that's what tells the body to go into sleep or when to wake. And either I don't produce that or my body thinks that it's something foreign in my body and fights it. So if you look at my sleep studies, and I've had tons of sleep studies, I get almost no deep sleep. I go from wake into REM, back out. Like I jump around, it's chaotic. I mean, right now, if I go to bed, if I'm in bed for 12 hours, I might get 6 hours of sleep, maybe. And of that, it's probably going to be like 10 or 15 minutes of deep sleep and maybe an hour and 20 minutes of REM sleep. And it's all going to be light. And it's going to just jump up and down the whole time. So cut that down to a normal 8 hours in bed. I'm lucky to get 5 or 10 minutes of deep sleep. I'm lucky to get 20 or 30 minutes of REM sleep. And I've had shit 20 some odd years now trying to figure this out, and I've been unsuccessful, but I'm still working on it. I've got it way better. I've controlled my sleep is so much better now than it ever has been. My depression is so much better than it ever has been. I haven't had insomnia. Like I was normally awake for 2 or 3 days. And the longest I ever went, I think was somewhere between 12 and 14. It was it's hard to remember. Things were getting really weird. Um, so I've done a lot better at controlling it. But I know now, and I look back now, the overtraining made my sleep worse, which made my depression worse, which made my suicidal stuff worse. And it was just this huge snowball effect. And what we learned over time with the overtraining and watching my teammates who all slept normal, no one had any other problems. I was the only one with sleep problems. We learned that when they started overtraining, their bad sleep turned into was like my good sleep. So all of a sudden, they would start having trouble getting deep sleep. They would start being awake a lot during the night, and they couldn't. Like when Scott was healthy, he went to bed and woke up in the morning. When he was overtraining, he'd be like, "Man, I woke up every 20 minutes all night long." And I go, "Well, that's a good night for me. Like, but that's a horrible night for you." So I started learning that, hey, wait a minute, these guys are normal. If they're normal and they're overtraining, and their central nervous system's overtrained, their sleep's going to shit. So now the recovery just dropped off, and we're going to try to keep training at the same pace. That's stupid. That doesn't even make sense. And then I kind of turned it on myself and I went, well, wait a minute, Chad. Like you went through most of your life without problems as bad as they are. Now you're having these horrible problems, but you're one of the strongest guys on the planet at the time. So maybe you're overtraining and yeah, you're getting stronger, but you're still not recovering right. And so that all this is going on while I'm spreading out our training. So it wasn't just like, oh, I don't want to train, so I'm just going to do it a couple days a week. It wasn't that. There was a shit ton of thought, a shit ton of my own science and research that I was doing that was coming in here. There was a shit ton of me sitting down. And this is an interesting thought right here. Because I've had people like, well, I trained like so and so, and I trained like so and so. And I'm like, well, you know that those are the same guys that I talked to that helped me come up with my conclusions that I needed to train less. So one of us apparently wasn't fully listening to what they were saying or fully understanding it. Or I've had situations where people are asking you questions because they want to hear a specific answer. And sometimes you just go, okay, yeah, well, I mean, I know they want to hear this, so whatever. Like, I'm tired of trying to help these people because some people say they want help. Like I've had people pay for seminars to just argue the whole time. And I'm like, well, there's other people here. If you just want to argue with me, let's do a private thing. Because there's other people here that want to actually listen and learn. But yes, I'm surrounded. I'm talking to the best of the best. I was fortunate to be able to do seminars with some of the greatest lifters of all time. And you can bet if they were talking to everybody, I was listening. Like I'm going to pick up everything I can pick up because these are some of the best lifters in the world, man. And I've had so many situations where, I'm like, ooh, I'm on the right path. Like, because these guys are saying similar things that I'm saying. Now, again, it's different because I had sleep problems. I can't get the sleep I need to get. I probably would have never done a 14-day program if I could sleep good. Because that would have meant that I'm under training. Like, so I wouldn't have done that. But then again, it also changed as I got stronger. I couldn't do what I was doing to squat 800 pounds to get me to 1,200 pounds. Things had to change. I was taxing my body a lot more. And at the same time, this was just one route that I took. I found out later that Mark Bartley and his team and guys had been having a similar problem, and they didn't mind doing the deload thing. So they planned in regular deloads to keep them from hitting that wall. And there's also like, hey, my intensity was super high when we trained, and I love training that way. So I kind of adapted my program based around, hey, man, I'd still like to really have high intensity. I think I need high intensity, but you could back off of some of that intensity. You could change the intensity of your supplemental stuff. You could have more supplemental stuff, less supplemental stuff. Like there's any number of ways that you could change this programming. There's any number of different things I could have done, which these days I will do with some of my other clients, depending on how I see my clients doing and talking to them and what they like to do and what they enjoy, because that's another factor. Like how pumped up you are about your training is going to have a huge factor. You can try to factor in all the science you want, but our mentality and how we look at things is always going to be a major factor in weight loss, in training, in nutrition, the whole thing. Now, I was talking to one of my clients actually this morning, and like the best thing that I ever did for my training was backing off. Every time we backed off, every time I gave everybody a little bit more rest, we got stronger. Remember, though, we were training with high intensity. Now, one of the worst things I ever did was not backing off enough. After I did a 27:33 at the Arnold Classic with a torn hamstring, with a pretty bad torn hamstring, not off the bone, but the muscle was torn pretty bad. So right then, I took second place to Andy, who just couldn't keep up with that dude's deadlift, man. Holy shit. I go, that's it, man. I just squatted 1170 with one leg. Like, I know I got a huge squat in me. I benched 800 with no legs. Like, dude, I'm there. Like, I can take the all-time total, which was my original goal. That's what I wanted out of all of this. And instead of going, Chad, you're right there, dude. You're good. You just need to rest. You need to give your body time to chill out. You need to back it off just a little bit more, which seems simple right now. Looking back, I'm like, well, duh. But I went, nope, you just got to push a little bit harder. You just got to go a little bit more. You got to push that edge a little bit more. And I set myself down a cliff. My depression got so horrible. My suicidal stuff got so horrible that I went into the Lexon Pro-Am, and I was strong. I was really strong that day. And that's where I did my 12:21, but it got red lighted. Both of the side judges are like, Chad, man, it was close, but I couldn't give it to you. And I was like, damn, because my bench was on that day. And it was like, that's it, man. Okay, we're right there. Kick it up another notch. And that sent me over the edge, where my next meet was actually out here at Diablo. And I was going to open with 1250 and then go 1300. And just warming up. I have pictures, man. I was just gray and I looked like shit. And I went out and I picked up 1,200 pounds and I went, nope. I go re-rack it, set it back down. I go, no. And I walked into the back and my partner's like, what the hell is going on? And I go, for the first time in my life, I don't feel like lifting. And I'm not going to take that risk of hurting all them other spotters if I don't feel like it. If I don't feel like it, I got no business doing it. And I felt bad for the people that came to see me. So I'm like, listen, man, tell them I'll still bench if they want me to. So 800, 850, I don't know. I benched something. That was like easy at the time, not a big deal. So I thought, well, at least I'll get to see something. And about that time, my family and my training partners kind of had an intervention because they saw the route that I was going. And so anyway, at that point, we decided to switch gears a little bit. And I went into Highland Games for a little while and trying to get myself to back off. And I struggled to do it. And that was kind of a time of a lot of different change. And we figured some shit out. And then when I was really ready to start lifting again, I wanted to break the 900 bench. So I was focusing on my bench really hard and came in to I did 920 off a two board, which is normally like if I can two board it, I can full bench it. And so like the next week or two, we came in to hit my 900 opener and I came down and like it came up on me and went into a JM position and I pushed it and tore the shit out of my tricep. And that was with just me and Scott with no spotters. So luckily Scott's strong as shit, and I was still, even with a torn tricep, I was strong. So we were able to re-rack it, but I just ripped the crap out of my tricep. And then it was just injury after injury and just a bunch of shit. But back to the point of the training, there's this balance, and it really is pretty simple in my mind. You go to the gym to stimulate growth. Then you got to recover from everything you did to your body. You got to replace the ATP. You got to replace all the stuff in the neurons of your central nervous system. And then when that happens, it grows. So it's almost like three stages in my brain. You stimulate, you recover, you grow. Then you go back and do it again, and you just keep doing this. And because I like to keep things simple, that's pretty much the way it is. So I'm really not growing in the gym. The gym's to stimulate the growth. And I think in terms of bodybuilding, you're just breaking down the muscle. In terms of strength, you're breaking down the muscle because you want a bigger, stronger muscle, but you're also taxing the central nervous system to teach it how to deal with these massive loads. So in bodybuilding, it seems to me it's more focused on the muscle. In strength, it becomes harder to deal with the central nervous system, but it's still the same thing. And you got to do this over and over. Now, the quicker that you can do this, the faster you get stronger. So if I had somebody who sleeps amazing, who is on their diet, dude, they're getting their carbs in, they're getting their protein in, they're getting their fats in, they're on it, who is eating good quality, healthy food, who is taking the time to work on their mentality, and they're not letting themselves get stressed out, and they're dealing with things in life well. They're keeping their body calm so it can do that recovery. I'm like, dude, let's train as much as we can train and still recover and grow. So that person is probably going to be able to train, 4 or 5 times. And if they're doing anabolic steroids, they might be able to train five good sessions a week. So let's do that. If you can handle it and recover from it, let's do that. I remember like one of my favorite lifters of all time was Chuck Vogelpool. I don't know how that guy recovered from what he did, man, but that dude could recover. There is no way, as much respect as I have for him and as awesome a lifter as he has, I can't recover like that. That would be the dumbest thing in the world for me to try to train the way he trains. Just because I like him and respect him doesn't mean I should train like him. Like it's amazing. But I even when I did take steroids, I wasn't taking massive doses, and it still didn't fix my sleep. And if who knows, if I took a shit ton of training, it'd probably even be worse. So that might not have even helped me. So the point is, you got to find what works for you. But I think in a lot of cases, people look at the people they like and want to train like them. Well, I saw their program in this magazine, or I read about their program online, so that's what I'm going to do. Well, how do you know? Like, what level are they at? What level are you at? Where did they start? Their training possibly changed over time. So if you're trying to do what they're doing at the Olympia, what did they do when they were a newbie like you? That's what you should be following. Like, where did their journey take them? And what did it do to their training? And I think that there's a difference between overtraining and under recovering. Okay, so you say you're overtraining, you're tired, you're having all these signs of overtraining, and there's lots of signs of overtraining. On my team, you would go into the gym and everybody would ask questions. So you would get, hey, how's your appetite? How's your sleeping? What's up with your flexibility? and everybody's like asking all these little questions to try and see how you're really feeling. And if you really can go, if you should be going heavy today or if you should be backing off. But you could say, okay, I'm overtrained, but are you really overtrained or are you under recovered? Are you overtrained because you're eating shit calories and missing meals? Are you overtrained because you're not getting enough sleep? Oh, I slept 4 hours last night. Well, you're not overtrained, dude. You're not getting enough rest. Like, so you're sacrificing how often you can train by not getting enough sleep. I went to a seminar with Stan Efferding one time, and one of the things he said that stuck the most with me was, I love to train. I like to train heavy every day. So I get 9 hours of sleep every night. So he didn't go, oh, I want to train so I can sleep. He went, hey, I want to train every day, so I have to get this sleep. Because if I don't get this sleep, I don't recover. I shouldn't be training. So, like, him getting that sleep was earning the ability to train that next day. Him getting his nutrition in, him getting his walking in. He had to do that to earn the training the next day. And I don't know if he actually thought that way, but when he said that, I thought, oh, that's fascinating. Like, you're earning your training by getting your sleep, by getting your nutrition in. You're like, hey, I trained today. I want to train tomorrow. So you know what? I got to be in bed at this time. And I thought that was just a fascinating way to look at it because I'd never seen it from that perspective before. So that's the other thing. And then oh, hey, I'm overtrained. Okay, are you really overtrained? Oh, you know what? You stress about every fucking thing in your life. Like from the time you get out of bed to the time you go to bed, you are a ball of stress. So there's no way your body's recovering. You're not overtrained, you're under recovered because you're not controlling your stress. So that's just another perspective on all of this. So I find it funny that people would look at my training and make some sort of judgment without really knowing what is going on or why it's happening. Yes, if I could sleep more, I would. Trust me. Even right now with my life, one of the reasons I've went the way I have with owning my own businesses and stuff is so that I have a better chance of manipulating my schedule around my sleep, because I found that if I can manipulate the schedule a little bit, like I tend to sleep better earlier in the mornings. So if I can change my job where I work later and sleep in a little bit, then that's going to help me. And that's one of the reasons I started doing online training, because at first I didn't like the idea of online training, but I figured out some tricks and help from other friends that I've talked to that allow me to feel like I'm doing a lot better job helping people online, such as doing video reviews all the time where people can watch me watching the video, which has worked really well. But that way it's like, hey, I can, if I do get that crash during the day, I can take a nap because I don't mind working later at night and I can do this work whenever I want. So that actually helps me out a lot. And I do need to try and grow that business a little bit more. Uh, Off track again. So it's looking at why people do what they do. I was watching another, because I hear people go, even Dorian Yates trained 4 days a week. And I'm like, okay, well, Dorian Yates, first of all, almost never trained more than an hour. So he did 4 days a week, 4 hours a week. He has also said many, many times when he had a job, he found he could only train 3 days a week and recover from them. Then when he went pro, he found, hey, I'm actually recovering really good. Let's add another day in. And he found that 4 days then worked for him because he didn't have to work all day. So I'm sure he was better at getting his sleep. He was better at getting his nutrition, and he had more time to rest. He didn't have to do that job. So you got people not factoring in drug use. Drug use is going to help you recover. Not factoring in jobs. Like if you sit in an office, that's one thing. If you're a carpenter, that's another thing. If you don't have a job, that's another thing. I mean, even getting up and going to a work if you even if you're sitting all day is still more than not working at all. We have a bad tendency, and I had this same tendency because when I had my granite company, I never wanted to calculate what I did during the day. Even though I'm carrying like thousands of pounds of stone every day, putting myself in weird positions, being bent over fabricating stone all day. I didn't want to calculate that. I just wanted to go, no, that's what I do. That's just my job. I'm training now. Well, they're going to impact each other whether you like it or not. So there's all these different factors, and I'm not saying that everybody should just do this or do that. I'm saying you got to find what works for you. And it's going to be different depending on what your job is, depending on if you have the time to get good sleep, depending on if you have the time to get good nutrition. You know, if you have a very important job, like you manage a bunch of people and you have 5 kids, dude, your life's going to be way more hectic. You're going to have a lot of stuff going on. That your training should be different than some single kid that's 19 with no worries. And vice versa. And even that, you have to calculate. Some people recover good, some don't. Like, yeah, basically we're all the same, but really we're different. I mean, I could take 100 kids and like so many of them are going to be great at athletics. So many of them are going to be shitty at athletics. So many of them are going to be just super smart. So many of them are going to be great at chess. I mean, we're all a little bit different. So when you're doing your training, you can't really just look at somebody that you like. Look at somebody that seems intelligent, that has worked with lots of different people and understands that there is no one right program. There's a lot of different programs. There's a lot of different ways. I love looking up. I love talking to top lifters and seeing how they train. I love reading about old training programs and what like old bodybuilders did. And you're like, wow, it's fascinating how different these guys train, yet they all looked amazing. They've all won an Olympia, or they've all been a top level bodybuilder. They've all been a top level strongman or a top level strength athlete. And this goes back into the day when I had the genius idea of writing the one program that would work for everybody. Because I had access to, I was friends with all these great lifters, and I thought, shoot, if I can just pick all their brains, I'm going to pick out the greatest program ever. Everybody did shit different. There was a couple things that are the same, but it was really different. And then when I stepped back and went, okay, you moron, that was a stupid fucking idea. Let's relook at this. And I went, okay, let's just try to find what's common in these people. Well, the common thing was auto-regulation, and they weren't afraid to do what worked for them. They weren't afraid of the fact that, hey, I read this or I read that. They didn't give a shit. They learned that, hey, this is what I got to do. This is what's going to work for me. And they did it. And there was no question. I mean, I can't tell you when I started talking to some of these top athletes, and they would tell me about, yeah, if I went into deadlift and I felt something weird in my back, I would just call it a day. Like, it wasn't worth getting injured over. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you mean you like went and had something to eat and then came back, or you went for a walk and then you came back, or like what, you did it a couple hours later? And they're like, no, you don't do it. It's done. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I thought it was on your program. You have to do it. They're like, no, it's not. And I kept hearing this from different guys. I had a pro strongman friend who I was in town doing the Highland Games, and I go, hey, I got the Highland Games. I'm not training with you, but dude, if you guys are training, man, I'd love to come. I'll load plates and just help out. I just want to be around it. And so the next day I called him and I'm like, dude, are you training or what? And he's like, nah, man, I had a shit day. I'm just stressed out. I'm pissed off, like it's just one of those days that I'm better off not doing it. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, it's just, I'm just not feeling it. And if I'm not feeling it, my body's telling me there's some reason not to. So I go, so I'll meet you tomorrow to do it. And he's like, no, we missed it. It's done. We're moving on to whatever the next scheduled day is. And like, this happened a lot. And every time I was stunned because I grew up in my basement. Like, this is the program. You do it. I don't care. And if you're so sick, if you're sick, you do it. If you're so sick you can't do it, then you make it up the next day. Even if you got another one planned, then you do two that day. Like, that's like blue collar mentality. I can do it no matter what. That was the mentality I grew up with. And to meet all these high level guys and they're telling me this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, what? Like, I didn't get it. And I did linear periodization when I first went to powerlifting, and I ended up hating linear periodization because it just never seemed to work for me. And then I started meeting these high level linear periodization guys. And it was like, yeah, the problem is I did it no matter what. And if I missed it because I was sick, I made it up. And that was my mistake. It was never linear periodization. It was how I was running linear periodization. And every one of them, your problem is you're hung up on this day. If you missed the day because of an injury or because you were sick or whatever, you missed it. Just go on to the next one. Just go to whatever the percentage is in that. You'll be fine. And that was fascinating. It was fascinating to me. Like, to me, this was like, you could have been speaking French to me. Like, I had to go home and look it up. I had to like think about it. And it blew my mind because I was so set on this is the program. This is a science. They said do 3 sets of 10. Like, they know 10 exactly. I must need to follow this to the T. And it's all kind of bullshit. There ain't no science that says 10. Like, it's crazy. You mean 10. So 11 is going to be too bad. If I do 9, it's not going to work. And if I do 11, it's not going to work. I got to do 10. Bullshit. So this was all mind blowing to me. And I wish I could have learned this when I was a teenager. You want a program, and you want a good program that's built on solid principles. But in the end, it's still going to come down to you, and it's going to come down to auto-regulating yourself and knowing, when do I go this hard and when don't I? Now, how do you do that? You do that by sticking to the program. I mean, you do that by starting and sticking to the program and learning and paying attention to what's happening. But also in the beginning, you have shitty technique. You haven't developed the skill to push yourself. Like, when I was young and I grew up in the basement, I thought I was such a badass, man. I would literally squat and then try to walk up the stairs. And if I could physically walk up the stairs, I went, oh, I'm not done squatting, so I need to go squat some more. When I would get halfway up and collapse, then I was done. And I thought I was so tough. It wasn't until I started powerlifting that I learned how hard I could really push my body. Like, I had no idea about stressing your central nervous system out and what that would do to you. No idea. I had no idea how hard I could push myself, but I thought I did, and I didn't. So I had to learn that over time. I had to learn that moving into this. I mean, look at all the stuff I didn't learn. All the stuff I learned about training as an athlete helped a bunch. And then I went into powerlifting, and it's like this whole different level. And that's, I mean, it's like the old saying about the ship that the ship where the engine wouldn't work and they had to get towed back in, and they hired a guy, the mechanic, to come look at the engine. And he goes down and he looks at the engine. He's like, all right, so what's going on? And they told him what's going on. He looks at the engine, grabs his hammer, whacks this one spot. Engine fires right up, no problems. The guy says, I'm going to need an invoice for that. And he goes, all right. And he writes up an invoice, and the guy's like, $10,000? He goes, yeah. You hit it with a hammer. You're going to have to itemize this for me. No, there's no way. And the guy writes down, and he's like, $5 for swinging hammer, $9,995 knowing where to swing the hammer at. Like, you're not paying me to swing the hammer. You're paying me for my knowledge because nobody on your ship had any idea. And the other mechanic that works on this ship had no idea. You're paying me for my knowledge. And that doesn't come cheap and it doesn't come quick. So the point of this whole thing is you need to learn what works for you. You got to do that by experimenting. I mean, even every client that comes to me is a little different. I've had a lot of experience with a lot of clients. I've helped a lot of people in lifting. I've done tons of seminars, but everybody's still an individual. So somebody might come to me and I'm like, all right, here's where we're going to start. But I'm always looking and analyzing, and that's why I need my clients to always send me videos so I can be watching what they're doing. Or my online clients anyway. My in-person clients I'm watching all the time. So I can adjust them, and it's why I'm asking them questions and figuring all that stuff out because everybody's still an individual. I don't have one program that I'm going to give to everybody. I have programs that I'm going to start with for most people, but it might also depend on their experience, how much they've been lifting. I have my figure girl right now. She had been training for a long, long time, had a hard time putting on muscle. One of the first things I did is, well, what have you been doing? So even right there, I had an idea of what wasn't working. The question was still, are they executing it correctly? So with that, I had some different ideas and some different plans on what I could do. I think she puts on muscle easy now, but it's doing the right things and executing the training properly. And again, I could have another girl come in with the exact same situation, but what I'm doing with this one might not work on the next one. So I need to be smart enough to go, hey, this isn't working. Let's try this till we figure out what works. So don't get too set on one thing. I think it's good to have basic principles and mold everything around that. And that's what I got when one of the reasons I first leaned towards conjugate is because there was like these main principles. Like everyone used to tell me about the West Side programs. And like I think I even asked Dave this after my first seminar. I went, wait a minute, this to me seems like an outline of what I need to do. This isn't telling me exactly what I need to do. This is an outline of rules that make sense. They're logical and they work if you do them correctly. And I believe he agreed with me after that seminar. I'm not sure, but that's how I've always seen it. I've seen it as like, hey, here's an outline of good principles to follow. Now figure out how to make these work for you. And so that's where when people go, I mean, if somebody came to me and said, and I've heard of guys that squatted heavy once a month and were great squatters. I've never actually seen that in person. That wouldn't even be enough for me. That would be under training for me. But I could see where it could work for somebody depending on how heavy they go. I learned way beyond. Tom Plass is one of my favorite bodybuilders just because his legs were massive and that always amazed me. And I didn't realize it when I was young because I trained so goddamn much. But as I got older and watching some of his old interviews and stuff, he squatted twice a month. But his squat sessions were crazy intense. And he's like, I couldn't, if I did it any more than that, I wouldn't recover. And if I'm not recovering, then that's interrupting the growing and I'm not going to grow. So what's the point? I mean, unless your point is just to like go and dude, I did that for a lot of years. It was a lot of fun. It kept me out of a lot of trouble. Like my daily challenge was how hard can I push myself today? That was fun. I liked it. That wasn't going to make me strong. And if I would have kept doing what I was doing, I probably would have been lucky to total 2000. I figure I might have someday got to an 800-pound squat, maybe bench 6. Probably still would have pulled 7. Um, what is that? That's 2021, something like that. I figure that's the best I would have ever did if I didn't start paying attention and if I didn't start backing off of my intense training. Now, I also made the mistake of saying, oh, I only train twice a week. Well, that wasn't totally true. But in my mind, especially at the time, if I wasn't training heavy, it didn't really count. I have since grown more mature than that. And I understand that GPP recovery sessions, all those sessions are actually very important and they're still training. So now I train every day. I do something for my strength every single day. That might be a hike. That might be a 12-mile bike ride on a BMX bike. That might be doing grip work. That might be doing rotator cuff work. That might be an hour-long stretching session. But I will do something every day. And in fact, I started doing the recovery sessions and the GPP sessions that really kicked into high gear when I first decided, okay, I can't train heavy, 5 days a week. So I got to do something to be in the gym damn near every day, at least the 5 working days. I got to be in the gym. So that's when I started researching, and I actually started, I think, from Louis. Louis had been doing some time to work at the time, and we started that. And I found out that, hey, man, this is actually good stuff. Like, this is really good stuff. This actually works. But the main reason I started to do it was to trick myself because I'm still in the gym, even though it's this jerk off lightweight bullshit. I was in the gym, and that like helped me be able to train less heavy days per week. Mentally, it helped me with that. Eventually, I had to fix my issues in my head of why I had to be in the gym all the time, beating myself up and challenging myself every single day. So in the long run, it was actually really good for me. And I'm going to end it right there because I've been very long-winded with this one. But I think all of these things are pretty important. I've said them all before, but I think they're worth reiterating because somehow I end up in conversations going back over this subject. So I'm going to talk about it on this podcast more at some other point. It's not about how often you train. It's about the intensity that you train, and it's about your goals. Are you moving towards your goals? If you have a goal of leaning out, dropping body fat percentage, if you have a goal of dropping weight, if you have a goal of gaining strength, you have to remember it's about that goal. You can't let, I need to train, I need to follow these rules that can't get in the way of you reaching that goal. Because a lot of times, that following that program, you need to adapt. You need to auto-regulate. You need to learn how to auto-regulate yourself and know, hey, okay, this is the program, but this program was written for this reason or for this person or under this idea, which might not be true with me right now. So the program may work, but I have to auto-regulate myself on that and start. Even as a new lifter now, I tell my new lifters, it's like, listen, you need to try and stick to this program. We need to stick on it. But for the future, there's going to be a time where you're going to have to start listening to your body. There's going to be a time where you can't lift as heavy as often, but then that's when we're going to pick up all these other different things. And it's going to change. It is its own entity, its own organism that's going to change and grow over time. As you gain strength, your body changes. How it works is going to change. And just be open to the idea that this is a growth kind of a thing. This is a long journey. We're going to see a lot of different landscapes. We're going to be in a lot of different situations. Don't get caught. This is the way it is. I think I got caught in that trap. And it wasn't until powerlifting that I really opened my eyes and went, whoa, wait a minute. You missed a big portion of this, Chad. You're really great at pushing yourself really, really hard. and you missed the boat on everything else. Okay, until next time, thanks for listening. And if you have someone that needs to listen to this, especially this episode, please share it. I'm out.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit CourageBarbell.com. Until next time.